It might be a cliché at this point to say this, but horror movies are never going out of fashion. We are scared by them. They make us uncomfortable. And yet we flock to theaters to check out the next obsession or Backrooms. So many monsters, villains, and ghosts from horror films have ingrained themselves in our collective imagination. Whether it's Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Michael Myers from John Carpenter's Halloween, Pennywise from It, or the Nun from the Conjuring universe, they terrify us. But at the same time, we can't stop thinking about them, despite our best efforts, long after we are done watching the movie. But these are the popular ones, right? In this video, we are going to talk about horror movie monsters with some of the most insane origin stories out there who have not received their due yet. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. The Pale Man. Rightfully considered one of the best movies directed by Guillermo del Toro, Pan's Labyrinth features a terrifying scene with the Pale Man. In the movie, Princess Moana, the underworld king's daughter, made the fatal mistake of visiting the world of human beings, where the sunlight blinded her and erased her memory. After that incident, she became mortal and eventually died. The king believed in the possibility that his daughter would one day return to the underworld. In anticipation of that particular day, he built labyrinths throughout the world, which acted as portals or gateways to the underworld. A faun, believing a 10-year-old girl named Ophelia to be the reincarnation of Princess Moana, tells her that she has to complete 3 tasks in order to prove her identity and return to the underworld. The Pale Man features in only one scene in the entire movie, when Ophelia goes to complete the second task. She enters a dimly lit room in which we see the Pale Man sitting on a chair at a large table where plenty of food is kept. However, the Pale Man looks as if he is sleeping, and the food there is kept as a trap for children. Before going there, the faun even warns her and tells her not to give in to temptation or eat anything there, as that would wake up the Pale Man and then he would attack her. But when she reaches there, she picks up 2 grapes and eats them, and then the Pale Man wakes up and devours 2 of the fairies that were accompanying her. That frightens Ophelia, and she runs away from there as she is being chased by the Pale Man. The Pale Man has a very distinctive, scary, and intimidating appearance. He does not have eyes on his face. Instead, his eyes are located in the palms of his hands. His lair is decorated with paintings that depict him devouring children. Guillermo del Toro has connected the Pale Man to institutional evil, including the church and fascism. As we can see in the movie, a large quantity of food is kept in front of the Pale Man, but the Pale Man does not touch it. The food represents power, control, and wealth. And despite having plenty of food with him, he devours children and fairies. According to Guillermo del Toro, it represents a hunger to devour innocence and purity. The development of the Pale Man as a character went through a lot of changes in the beginning. Initially, one concept involved a wooden figure with drawers in his body. He was also imagined as an old, gluttonous figure before Guillermo del Toro and the design team settled on the look that we got to see in the movie. Rawhead Rex. In the movie Rawhead Rex, an American professor named Howard Hallenbeck goes to rural Ireland with his family to research items of religious significance. He visits a church there to take pictures of the graves and religious artifacts. In the meantime, 3 farmers are trying to remove a stone pillar from a field. A thunderstorm occurs, lightning strikes the pillar, and Rawhead Rex rises from the ground. For the rest of the movie, we see Rawhead killing several people. The movie was based on a short story by Clive Barker, which was also titled Rawhead Rex. Although Clive Barker also wrote the screenplay for the movie adaptation, he was quite disappointed with how the movie eventually turned out. Rawhead Rex is an ancient creature who appears to have existed long before modern human civilization. He is infamous for eating innocent children and committing other acts of unimaginable cruelty. In the original short story, he is described as a 9-foot-tall monster. Clive Barker described him as a walking phallus with a huge mouth and sharp teeth. But in the movie, he is portrayed as someone far less intimidating, looking more like an armored ogre. In both the movie and the original short story, this ancient creature is described as a menacing, ferocious, and vicious force of nature who destroys almost everything in his path. The Tall Man. The Tall Man was first introduced to the world by director Don Coscarelli in his film Phantasm, which was released in 1979. Later on, the film went on to have 4 more sequels, and it eventually developed into an established film series. Angus Scrimm portrayed the Tall Man in all 5 movies. Also, everything about the Tall Man is not revealed in the first movie. A lot of information about him is revealed in the sequels, which throws light on why he is the way he is. The Tall Man was a human being in the past. He was a 19th century mortician named Jebediah Morningside. For years, he worked with dead bodies, and that led to a fascination with death and the world beyond it. He started conducting experiments to find a way to the other side. Ultimately, he was successful in creating a machine that was capable of traveling through time and space. But when he used it, he never came back as the man he once was. Instead, he returned as the Tall Man. The Tall Man has superhuman strength. He is extremely difficult to kill. Parts cut off from his body can continue moving on their own. And when one of his bodies is destroyed, another version can emerge through his dimensional gateway. He has an army of lurkers made from reanimated and compressed corpses. His signature weapons are flying metallic spheres that can move through the air and kill their victims. His origin story reveals a past of isolation, obsession, and morbid fascination with death. Bagul or Bagul. Sinister was directed by Scott Derrickson, who is also known for directing horror movies such as The Black Phone and Black Phone 2. It was released in 2012, and it still scares the bejesus out of us. Scott Derrickson and the co-writer of the movie, C. Robert Cargill, went all in for this movie. Over the years, it has become a cult favorite, and it is not surprising that it was labeled the scariest movie in a 2020 study by Broadband Choices, based on an analysis of viewers' heart rates. It's very difficult to find a horror movie villain creepier, scarier, and more unsettling than Bagul, who manipulates children into killing their families. After that, Bagul lures the children into his realm and consumes their souls. And when the next family moves into the house, they become his target. The children even film the murders while committing the heinous crimes. In the extended footage connected to the films, we can see the children who have murdered their families. After killing their family members, the children draw pictures of their dead relatives. Bagul then takes the children into the supernatural world contained within the films and images. Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill wanted Bagul to feel as though his origins were rooted in ancient folklore. They discussed whether Bagul was going to be a pagan deity and conducted research into various demons, gods, and supernatural traditions in order to flesh out the character. However, Bagul is not an authentic figure from Babylonian or any other ancient mythology. He was created for the Sinister movies. Within the fictional mythology developed for Sinister 2 and its promotional material, Bagul was described as the brother of Moloch, who initiated child sacrifice rituals and consumed children's souls. According to this invented backstory, Moloch punished Bagul by sealing his mouth with ash. Bagul has a nightmarish appearance. He is a tall, humanoid creature with pale skin and long black hair who has a scarred or sealed-looking mouth and dark, sunken eyes. Everything about him is sinister and evil, whether it's his manipulation of children into killing their own family members, his fictional origin story, or his appearance. Ethan Hawke played the lead role in the movie. Later on, he again collaborated with Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill on The Black Phone and Black Phone 2. The Brood Creatures. David Cronenberg has always been ahead of the curve. His entire directorial career proves that he is no stranger to unsettling, strange, and surreal body horror films. That's pretty much his genre as a filmmaker. The Brood, directed by David Cronenberg, received mixed reviews at the time of its release, but later on, not surprisingly, it went on to attain cult status. David Cronenberg has himself stated that it is one of his most personal movies. He made this movie after a bitter and painful divorce, and that experience shaped the movie. It kind of reminds me of how Ari Aster decided to make Midsommar after a breakup. Well, in both cases, we got movies that scared the bejesus out of us. So, in the movie, Frank and his wife Nola are in the middle of a separation and custody dispute. Nola is a patient of Dr. Hal Raglan, a psychotherapist. Dr. Hal Raglan wants his patients to undergo an experimental therapy called psychoplasmics. According to that process, patients release their suppressed emotions, and those emotions manifest themselves physically on their bodies in the form of growths, sores, and other physiological changes. Raglan uses intense role-playing therapy to draw those emotions out. This doesn't go well with Nola, as her repressed rage leads her body to produce dwarf-like brood creatures that go and kill the people against whom her anger is directed. Nola had a traumatic life. She was abused by her alcoholic mother, Juliana, and claimed that her father failed to protect her. The brood creatures were physical manifestations of her suppressed emotions, born from an external womb attached to her body, and they could kill without flinching. The Brood is David Cronenberg's dark response to the optimistic treatment of divorce associated with Kramer vs. Kramer and its source novel. He wanted to make a haunting and surreal body horror movie that captured the ugly, messy, and tragic realities of divorce. He wanted to make a movie that revolved around divorce and its harmful effects on the children who go through it. Candyman. Candyman, a movie written and directed by Bernard Rose, was based on Clive Barker's short story titled The Forbidden. Of course, the main villain in that horror movie is Candyman himself, played by Tony Todd. In the movie, Helen Lyle, a graduate student researching urban legends in Chicago, learns about the legend of Candyman. According to the urban legend, Candyman is a ghost who kills anyone who repeats his name 5 times in front of a mirror. The origin story created for the film version of Candyman is tied to the history of racism and oppression in the United States. Candyman is the ghost of a black man who was born in the 19th century as the son of a formerly enslaved man. Later on, he grew up to become an acclaimed painter and fell in love with a white woman who belonged to a wealthy family. The woman became pregnant with his child. In response, her father sent a mob to lynch him. The mob cut off his right hand and covered him with honey in order to attract bees, which stung him to death. Candyman is the ghost of a man who was a victim of racially motivated violence and mob lynching. The horror in the movie reflects the real-world horrors of racism, oppression, segregation, and other forms of injustice. However, this backstory was created for the 1992 movie and does not appear in the same form in Clive Barker's original short story, which was set in Liverpool and focused more heavily on class divisions, urban decay, and the nature of legends. Belial. Basket Case has an extremely tragic plot. Frank Henenlotter wrote and directed it. At the time of its release in 1982, it received mixed reviews, but later on, it went on to attain cult status. It was made on an extremely economical budget of approximately $35,000, and it also used stop-motion animation for sequences involving Belial. In the movie, Belial and Duane are born as conjoined twin brothers. Belial was severely physically deformed, and their father could not accept him. They are surgically separated from each other by 3 doctors, Dr. Lifflander, Dr. Needleman, and Dr. Cutter. After the surgery, Belial is thrown into a garbage bag and left for dead. Duane rescues his twin brother. Because of that, both of them take revenge against the doctors responsible for the separation, having already killed their abusive father. Belial's story is extremely heartbreaking and tragic right from the beginning of his life. Duane keeps him hidden in a basket while trying to live a regular life as much as possible. However, Duane falls in love with a woman, and Belial gets jealous and can't bear it. Belial's entire life is filled with abandonment, isolation, jealousy, and hatred. The light in his life never went out as he grew up because there was no light in his life to begin with. After he was surgically separated from his twin brother, he was literally thrown away like trash. Just a human child abandoned in a heartbeat. You can't get an origin story much darker than that. The Creeper. Despite the fact that Jeepers Creepers received mixed reviews at the time of its release, it became a commercial success and spawned 2 sequels and a reboot. Just like the original movie, both Jeepers Creepers 2 and Jeepers Creepers 3 were written and directed by Victor Salva. The reboot, however, was directed by Timu Vuorensola. The Creeper from the original Jeepers Creepers trilogy definitely belongs on this list. He is an ancient creature who wakes up every 23rd spring for 23 days to feed on human body parts. The Creeper does not simply eat flesh. He consumes selected organs and body parts in order to replace his own damaged ones. If his eye gets destroyed, he can eat a victim's eye to replace it. If his tongue is damaged, he can consume another tongue and make it part of his own body. His origin story is largely kept under wraps throughout the first and second films in the original trilogy. The Creeper appears to have existed for centuries before the events of the original Jeepers Creepers trilogy. In the licensed comic books that expanded on the movies, an account depicts him receiving human sacrifices in the time of the Aztecs. However, even within the comic, parts of this ancient history are presented as legends rather than definitively proven facts. The third movie in this trilogy was caught up in controversy for a disturbing line involving child sexual abuse. The dialogue was specifically singled out for criticism because the movie's writer and director, Victor Salva, had been convicted in 1988 of sexually abusing 12-year-old actor Nathan Forrest Winters during the production of Clown House and recording one of the assaults. Authorities also found commercial magazines and videotapes containing child sexual abuse material in Salva's home. No! Victor Crowley. Hatchet was released at film festivals in 2006 before receiving a limited American theatrical release in 2007. Adam Green wrote and directed it. The movie became a cult classic and spawned 3 sequels, although the film series itself is not as widely discussed as many other slasher franchises. Victor Crowley, the main antagonist of the film series, is a vengeful supernatural killer with an extremely tragic backstory. Once upon a time, Thomas Crowley lived with his severely deformed son, Victor Crowley. One Halloween night, a group of teenagers threw firecrackers at the Crowley house in an attempt to frighten Victor, and the house caught fire. When Thomas tried to save his son by breaking down the front door with a hatchet, he accidentally struck Victor in the face because Victor was pressed against the other side of the door, leading to his tragic death. After Thomas's death, years later, Victor was believed to roam the swamp as a vengeful spirit, killing anyone who came near that place. Victor Crowley died because of his father's desperate attempt to rescue him, and the real tragedy is that he didn't get killed by an abusive father. He was accidentally killed by a father who loved him and went to great lengths to shield him from the cruelty of the world. The cast of the film series is stacked with horror icons like Kane Hodder, who portrayed Victor Crowley, and Tony Todd, who portrayed Reverend Zombie. Kane Hodder is also quite famous for his portrayal of Jason Voorhees in several Friday the 13th movies. Pumpkinhead. We know Stan Winston for his iconic work as a special effects artist on films like Aliens, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Jurassic Park, and Iron Man. He was always brilliant at what he did best. So it's not surprising that when Stan Winston decided to make Pumpkinhead as his feature directorial debut, the special effects work in that film was bound to succeed. The movie stars Lance Henriksen in the lead role, playing Ed Harley. And Pumpkinhead, the main monster in the movie, looks intimidating and scary. Pumpkinhead has a large, elongated head and pale skin, with multiple lumps on his body. His eyes are pale and reptilian. He is completely hairless, and he has a very large mouth with pointed, human-like teeth. He has long arms with clawed hands that have 4 fingers. His torso has a rib cage-like design, and his legs are large and muscular, with an unusual joint structure. In the movie, a widower named Ed Harley lives with his son Billy and owns a store in the countryside. One day, as he briefly leaves his son alone at the store, a group of teenage campers arrive. While riding their dirt bikes, one of them accidentally fatally injures Billy. Ed Harley, hell-bent on taking revenge against the teenager responsible and his friends, goes to a witch. The witch agrees to help him, but she also gives him a warning. She tells him that revenge comes at a cost. And then she tells him to go to an old graveyard in the mountains, dig up a corpse, and bring it to her. After doing what he is told, the witch uses the blood of Ed and his son to bring the corpse back from the dead. The corpse becomes a gigantic and demonic monster. The creature is known in local legend as Pumpkinhead. When Pumpkinhead actually starts killing people, Ed Harley feels guilty. He wants Pumpkinhead to stop the killings. When he goes back to the witch to seek help, she tells him that it cannot be stopped and that Ed will die if he interferes. Towards the end of the film, Pumpkinhead starts to gradually look more human, while Ed, on the other hand, starts to look more like the Pumpkinhead monster. Ed realizes that he and the creature are supernaturally linked. He shoots himself in the head, temporarily bringing Pumpkinhead down. After that, he begs Tracy to kill him for good. When she shoots him several more times, both Ed and Pumpkinhead die. The witch later buries Ed's corpse in the graveyard, waiting for the next person seeking revenge to come to her. The film effectively portrays the idea that revenge doesn't solve anything. When Pumpkinhead goes around killing people, Ed can actually see the killings through the eyes of Pumpkinhead, and the horrific sight of those killings compels him to try to make the carnage stop. A horror movie is often only as good as its villain. The villain can be anything. It can be a person, a spirit, or something supernatural. The villain can even be something that exists within the main protagonist. For example, Bo's anxiety in Ari Aster's Bo is Afraid. In this video, we focused on monsters, ghosts, and villains from horror movies with extremely terrifying backstories who simply went under the radar. All right, folks. This is where we would like to sign off. We hope you enjoyed our video. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take care and stay tuned. We will be back soon with our next video.